There's something about certain moments that feel small on the surface, but somehow refuse to stay that way. A simple seating arrangement on a plane shouldn't mean much, right? People board, they find their seats, they settle in. End of story. But when it comes to Jimin and Jungkook, even the most ordinary detail can spark a wave of curiosity, emotion, and endless conversation across the global fanbase of BTS. And this time, it happened again. Not at a concert, not on stage, not during a rehearsed interaction, but inside a plane, quietly, almost casually, as they flew from Incheon to the United States. At first glance, it sounds almost too simple to matter. Two members of the same group sitting next to each other. Of course they would, right? They've spent years traveling together, performing together, living parts of their lives side by side. But then why does it keep happening in a way that feels intentional? Why does it catch people's attention every single time? And perhaps the bigger question, why does it feel like there's always more to the story than what meets the eye? Let's slow down and really think about it. In a group as large and as globally active as BTS, logistics are never random. Flights, seating arrangements, schedules, everything is typically planned down to the smallest detail. These aren't just friends going on vacation. They're part of a massive operation involving managers, security teams, coordinators, and tight timelines. So when fans notice that Jimin and Jungkook are once again seated next to each other on a long-haul flight, it naturally raises a question. Is this purely coincidental, or is it something that reflects a deeper dynamic? Over the years, fans, ARMY, have watched countless moments between the two. Some loud and playful, others quiet and subtle. There's a familiarity there that doesn't need explanation, and maybe that's exactly why moments like this hit differently. Because it's not about one instance. It's about a pattern. Think back to all the times they've been seen together in similar situations. Airport walks where they gravitate toward each other without thinking. Casual behind-the-scenes clips where they sit close, talk quietly, or just exist in the same space without needing to fill the silence. And now, again, on a plane, in a moment that wasn't meant to be a spectacle, but somehow became one anyway. What makes this even more interesting is the setting. A flight is one of the few places where there's no performance, no cameras intentionally capturing content, no stage persona. It's in between time. Time to rest, to think, to just be. So when two people choose, or are placed, in close proximity during that time, it says something, even if we don't fully understand what. But let's challenge the idea for a second. Could it really be that deep? Isn't it possible that it's just practical? Maybe they requested to sit together because they're comfortable with each other. Maybe the staff arranged it because it makes coordination easier. Maybe it's just habit. And honestly, all of those explanations make sense. Yet, even with those logical answers, the emotional reaction from fans doesn't go away. Why? Because humans are wired to look for meaning in patterns. And when something repeats, especially involving people we've watched, admired, and connected with for years, it starts to feel like a story unfolding in real time. Not scripted, not forced, but organic. There's also something undeniably relatable about it. In a world where schedules are chaotic and lives are constantly moving, finding someone you consistently end up next to, someone who becomes your default, is rare. It's comforting. It's grounding. And seeing that kind of connection, even in small ways, resonates more than people might expect. Now imagine being on that plane, the cabin lights dimmed, the quiet hum of the engines filling the space, most passengers settling into their own bubbles, headphones on, eyes closed, minds drifting. And there they are, sitting side by side. Maybe they're talking, maybe they're not. Maybe one is watching something while the other is half asleep. Or maybe they're just existing in that shared space, completely at ease. What does that kind of comfort look like after years of being in the spotlight? That's where things get interesting. Because comfort like that doesn't just appear overnight. It's built over time, through shared experiences, challenges, laughter, misunderstandings, growth. It's built in the quiet moments that no one sees. And when glimpses of that comfort surface in public, even unintentionally, it feels authentic. And authenticity is something fans can sense immediately. But there's another layer to this. the narrative that fans create. Every time something like this happens, discussions explode online. Threads, comments, theories, reactions, everyone has something to say. Some keep it light, joking about how they can't be separated. Others dive deeper, analyzing body language, past interactions, and what this recurring closeness might mean. Is that analysis always accurate? Not necessarily. But does it reflect genuine interest and emotional investment? Absolutely. And that's part of what makes fandom culture so powerful. It's not just about consuming content. It's about interpreting it, connecting it, and building meaning around it. A simple moment, like two people sitting next to each other on a plane, becomes a piece of a much larger puzzle. Still, it's important to stay grounded. Not every moment carries a hidden message. Not every interaction needs to be decoded. Sometimes, people are just people. Friends sitting together because it feels natural. Colleagues sharing space because they've done it 100 times before. But here's the twist. Even if it is that simple, why does it still feel special? Maybe it's because simplicity itself has become rare. In an industry filled with high production, scripted appearances, and carefully curated images, a moment that feels unfiltered, even if it's barely visible, stands out. It reminds people that behind everything, there are real human connections. And those connections don't always need to be explained. Let's also consider the timing. Traveling from Incheon to the US isn't just any flight. It usually means something big is ahead. Performances, appearances, schedules that will demand energy, focus, and presence. It's a transition from one environment to another, from one phase to the next. So sitting next to someone you trust during that transition, that might matter more than we think. It raises another question. When you're about to step into something major, who do you choose to sit beside? Who makes that long journey feel shorter? Who turns hours in the air into something comfortable instead of exhausting? These aren't questions we can answer definitively, but they're worth thinking about. And maybe that's the real reason moments like this resonate so strongly. They invite us to think, to feel, to connect dots, even if the full picture remains unknown. There's also a kind of quiet consistency here that fans have started to notice. It's not loud. It's not dramatic. It doesn't demand attention. But it's there. Again and again. In different places, under different circumstances, but always with the same underlying tone. Consistency like that builds a narrative, whether intentional or not. And narratives are powerful. They shape how people perceive relationships, how they interpret actions, how they emotionally invest in what they see. Over time, even the smallest repeated detail can become symbolic. So when fans see Jimin and Jungkook sitting together on a plane, again, it doesn't feel like an isolated moment. It feels like a continuation of something. But here's where it gets even more interesting. What if the meaning isn't in the moment itself, but in the way people react to it? Think about it. The reactions say a lot about what people value, about what they notice, about what resonates emotionally. The excitement, the curiosity, the discussions, it all reflects a deeper desire to understand connection in a world that often feels disconnected. And maybe that's why this matters more than it should. Because it taps into something universal. The idea of having someone you naturally end up next to. Someone who becomes part of your routine without effort. Someone whose presence doesn't need explanation. It's simple, but it's also powerful. Of course, not everyone sees it the same way. Some might shrug it off, dismiss it as overanalyzed, or question why it's even a topic of conversation. And that perspective is valid too. Not every detail needs to carry weight, but at the same time, dismissing it entirely misses the bigger picture. Because this isn't just about a seat on a plane. It's about the way people observe, interpret, and connect with the lives of those they admire. It's about the human tendency to find meaning in repetition. It's about the emotional threads that tie fans to moments that might otherwise go unnoticed. And in that sense, this moment, quiet as it is, becomes something more. It becomes a conversation. It becomes a question. It becomes a story that continues to unfold, piece by piece, without ever fully revealing itself. So, what does it actually mean? Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. Or maybe it's somewhere in between, a space where logic and emotion coexist, where facts and feelings overlap, where a simple seating arrangement can be both ordinary and meaningful at the same time. And honestly, that ambiguity might be the most compelling part of all, because it leaves room for interpretation. It invites curiosity. It keeps people watching, thinking, and wondering what the next moment will reveal. And if there's one thing that's clear, it's this. People are paying attention, not just to the big performances or the major announcements, but to the small, almost invisible details that slip through the cracks. The moments that aren't meant to be headlines, but somehow become them anyway. So the next time something like this happens, and let's be honest, it probably will, what will people notice? Will it be another seating arrangement? Another quiet interaction? Another moment that seems insignificant until it isn't? And more importantly, how will it be interpreted? Because in the end, the meaning of these moments isn't fixed. It evolves with every perspective, every reaction, every discussion that follows. And that's what keeps it alive. If you've made it this far, you're probably already forming your own thoughts. Maybe you see it as a simple coincidence. Maybe you think there's a deeper connection reflected in these repeated moments. Or maybe you're somewhere in between, just observing and letting the story unfold naturally. Whatever your perspective is, it matters. So here's something to think about. Do moments like this change the way you see their dynamic? Or do they simply confirm what you've already felt all along? Drop your thoughts, because this conversation doesn't end here. And if you enjoy breaking down moments like this, looking beyond the surface, asking questions, connecting the dots, make sure you stay tuned. There's always another detail waiting to be noticed, another story waiting to be explored, another moment that might seem small until it isn't.